Time to know your rights at 7:39. We are talking, we're going to take your legal questions and get the answers from our experts. Here now to help us do that is our legal ace, John Grazian of Grazian and Volpe. Good morning. How are you, John?
I'm very well. How are you?
We're doing pretty good. A little confused about all of these stories about Megabus. So glad you're here.
I've been having a tough week.
Man, have they ever. Okay, so a lot of problems for the company. If you don't remember all of these, we're going to kind of run them down for you. We're going to start off by talking about the local story that involves the elderly woman, pedestrian. If you're not familiar with it, a Megabus was downtown making a turn just in the loop when a side view mirror hit the woman, and then she later died at the hospital.
Right.
In a similar case, they just settled for $5.1 million for an accident that happened not 2 blocks away from that one back in 2010. And so, John, we're kind of here to talk about the safety rules, like what happens in an accident like this.
And of course, I've also had last week the accident on I-55.
Exactly.
And they had, I guess, a fire last night
Right.
on a bus in Florida.
Right.
And there are quite a bit of safety rules that apply to buses. There are rules on how long a driver can drive for. They want to avoid driver fatigue. There are various maintenance, equipment rules, so on and so forth. It's a very highly regulated industry. Most of the special rules that apply to buses, though, work towards the passenger's benefit. Bus is considered to be a common carrier. They have a higher duty to protect passengers than normal people would have. Usually it's a negligence standard where you're talking about, for instance, an automobile accident between 2 normal people. But on buses, because they are common carriers, they have the highest degree of care practicable under circumstances. They have to actually go out of their way to protect the customer or the passenger.
Now, what about in situations where it's, because I think it's 2 different things when you have an accident or something that happens due to mechanical failure, like this fire or that thing that happened downstate on 55, and versus somebody hitting someone with the bus. Like, to me, that seems like 2 different types of cases.
They are 2 different things.
Okay.
They are 2 different things. As I said, it's a very highly regulated industry, and so if you have an equipment failure or any violation of one of the safety rules on the bus, that can be used for evidence of negligence, evidence to show that the bus is liable. When you're talking about someone that's not on the bus, such as what happened the other day, it's a pedestrian crossing the street, we're talking about a negligence standard. Was the bus driver acting as a reasonable person should under the circumstances? Was he careless? So on and so forth. And the difference comes when you actually are a passenger on the bus. Then you have a higher degree of protection.
I see, because you bought that ticket. Now, what about these curbside bus services? There are a few of them out there, Megabus being one of them.
Yes.
And do they operate a little bit differently?
They do, and they've actually had a problem with last year. They had a big sting operation out on the East Coast where they shut down, I think it was 14 bus companies. And the problems with some of these bus companies, curbside bus companies, they don't have a centralized station or terminal where the buses come for their maintenance and where they can be easily inspected, where the drivers can be regulated and looked at and so forth. They save money by just picking people up on the curb.
And they can kind of scoot around the rules that way?
And that's what happens in a lot. I'm not saying this is true with Megabus, but there have been other bus companies where the drivers weren't licensed, where they're cutting maintenance, where they're not even following the maintenance procedures, and they get shut down. But because they're curbside buses and they don't have a centralized location, they just come and reopen under another name, you know, the next week or the week after that.
So you're saying beware of some of this, at least know what you're getting into.
Know what you're getting into. Megabus actually has newer buses, and with the exception of the last week, has actually an above average safety record. But you know, a lot of the curbside buses, there are problems with them just because they're so transitory in nature.
Got it. Wow. That's a lot of stuff to think about, especially when it's something we deal with in the news. Thank you so much, John. Now, if you have any questions for John, he's more than happy to help you, or anybody at his firm. You can call them or visit them online. All the information is right there on your screen. And we'll also, of course, as always, have a link on our website, too. Thank you so much, John.
Thank you.